Alright guys, so my drawing video that I wanted to do is primarily geared into a drawing style that I've been doing for a long time. It kind of progressively evolved from influences in my life and childhood. It started out with kind of my dad. He was my first real art teacher. He always drew these really goofy characters, and he also taught me, something that very early. He taught me about overlapping shapes, and how you could color all the different places that shapes overlapped, and it's kind of like my first introduction into abstraction. So he was my first real art influence. After that, I was influenced by in my teenage years, the H.R. Geiger and his alien art, and also Jonan Vasquez, who is a comic book artist. He is known for the Invader Zim cartoon on Nickelodeon as well. And a lot of people have said that my stuff kind of reminds them of the Men in Black monsters as well, I've heard. Though they weren't really an influence of mine, it's something that something I've been told. And also just sleeve tattoos, I think, also played a part. So might see where this sort of stuff comes from. I've heard the term Zentangles, and I had never even heard that term until this last year, but I guess it's kind of like that as well. It's just this repetition of implied texture and patterns, but mixed with kind of this monsterish kind of stuff. So anyway, so this is some of the stuff that I've done in the past. I normally am always using ink and pen because it's not really about making mistakes or correcting mistakes. It's just about going and seeing where it goes. So, so this is kind of stuff I've done. So anyway, let's get started. So I usually start either with a mouth or an eye. So why don't we start with a mouth? So let's see. We'll just go with something like this. Okay. Back when I was in high school, I had an art teacher who said, when you're doing these mouths, why don't you think about how the mouth could possibly close in a real, in real life functionality? And I was always like, no, that's not the point. So, alright, so from there, let's kind of, just go like that, and kind of go like that. You could kind of, think about where this is going. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of going. I don't even know what this is. Adding a few bumps. So here, maybe we'll make some cartoony gums. Let's see. There we go. Again, you don't have to plan anything out. It's not about that. It's just about where they're going. Seeing where the stuff takes you. Alright? And what kind of teeth do we want? We want sharp teeth, or let's not do sharp teeth. Let's just kind of do some just some square, rounded out, weird, jagged teeth here. Alright, and there we go. Alright, so connect this. Okay, so where's this taking us? Let's just close this mouth off right here. And we want an eye, but we don't have to think about any kind of physiology here, right? Let's make the eye way over here. Why not? So let's do this big giant eye socket. Alright. Let's leave this open. You know, let's not close stuff off because we might want to keep going. So, yeah, big giant eyeball. There we go. Yeah, I guess anime was kind of a little bit of an influence with eyes. I oftentimes will kind of do this weird little kind of anime eye. I never really drew a lot of anime, but I really liked it. I kind of ended up stealing their weird goofy eyes. Were always big and the pupils were always kind of like that. Yeah, it's just kind of, you know, you don't got to do much, just so we can kind of see that it's the eye. Alright, so oftentimes I'll go back in and color that in, but let's see, what do we want to do now? What do we want to do now? Let's go kind of this way. Let's just bring something here. Okay, and again, just leaving kind of like areas that we can build off from. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. So let's kind of like fleshy rib cage this a little bit out. Who knows what it is? I mean, just kind of going with it, right? There we go. And I'll leave it a space there. Oop. Kind of drawing this at a weird angle. I'm normally much better at that. So you know, I'm looking at this, and so this shape that I've just made, it almost looks like an eye, or it could be you know some kind of something protruding there. So let's kind of this is where the kind of the Zentangle takes shape. So let's kind of complete this shape. Okay. I hope you guys can see that. And so let's kind of let me make sure you guys can see that. Okay, you can. Just wanted to make sure. So so we could make this an eye real easily. We could kind of just you know, maybe start it like this. And kind of bring something like that. Let's not do that. Let's make it kind of almost this weird kind of tubular thing. And maybe it's, you know, add a little 3D kind of effect here. You know, maybe something like this. You know, I don't know. Just kind of add that kind of Zentangle implied texture kind of thing. Alright, so where do we want to go from here? Why don't we kind of flesh out this top part here? So but you know, an eye would just be too predictable, right? So let's kind of make it like a thorn or like a tooth or something. Let's kind of, we'll round it out. There. I don't know if this shading is going to work, but let's give it a shot. It's kind of just some really subtle hatching. Just, yeah, you don't need to be real. Let's put an eyeball over here. Why not? So let's see. Why don't we make another mouth over here? Why not? Have it coming right off this. And I didn't even plan this when I started, but you know, it's just a little repetition. Whatever those are, like fingers or something. In fact, why don't we just do that? Why don't we just turn them into little fingers, pull a couple nails down there. Now we could fill the whole page, but you know what? Where I'm looking at right now is I kind of like this negative space up here. It personifies the whole thing. Like maybe this is one body. If I've got this as the main head where we started. So where I'm probably going to go is I'm going to complete this. I'm going to complete this like back area, and that would probably be where I would stop. Just not because I planned it that way, but because based on kind of the bone structure of kind of where this has taken me, is to me this looks like one creature with this being the main head. I don't know why. It's just kind of where things are kind of wrapping up here for me. So yeah, if there's one thing to really just take away from this is that there's no mistakes. That sounds like such a Bob Ross thing to say. Happy little accidents, but there's no accidents either. You don't know what you're doing. Like if you don't have a plan, like if you're not out to draw anything, then how can you make a mistake? I used to fill my, I'd be in class and I'd be filling my my jeans up with these designs. My mother would just be like, "What are you doing? Like, I have laundry to do. Like, what is this?" And I would fill my whole jeans up with this kind of stuff. It's changed over the years, but it hasn't evolved that much, this style of drawing that I kind of started doing. I don't know if you guys can see. So he's got kind of a bit of a smirk. Oh boy, goofy. Alright, so then let's just fill this up. Oh, got a little bit of smudging there. So that's one thing about ink when it's wet like this. You can get that smudging. You know what, let's just fill this up. Let's just kind of do one of these. There it is. Here's my kind of weird creature Zentangle kind of thing. See if I can get it to stand up so you can see it in its entirety. There we go. And a Coke can. So yeah, that's my style of drawing. When I'm just sketching for the heck of it, when I'm just doing it for the fun of it, that's kind of when I'm sketching. So, yeah, thanks for watching me draw. It's just all about just going, not worrying about mistakes. Just what does it look like and where is it going, and foreground, background, pattern, applied texture, and just really creepy eyes and teeth. All right. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Bye.